So, before I get into it this week, I want to let y'all in on something that happened to me. And then it kind of stopped me in my tracks for a second. You see, I was on my phone doing regular, casual scrolling, right? Laughing at some content, sending posts to people that probably get to it later on, the normal stuff. And then one of those blasts from the past pictures had popped up. And when I focused on it, I really wasn't looking at the throwback anymore. I was looking at a version of my life that doesn't exist anymore. My daughter, she was smaller in these home videos. Son, he wasn't even here yet. And some people in the flow of pictures that popped up, they're not here anymore. I caught myself sitting there just staring at them, thinking like, damn, we spend so much of our time trying to get to the next chapters in our life that sometimes, even most times, we don't realize that we're standing in a bottle full of lightning. One of the things that my mom said to me years ago was, son, everything can't be scattered in time. One of us has to be smart enough to save these moments. And no lie, I kind of thought she was just talking about relationships. But the older that I got, the more I realized that she might have been talking about life too. Eventually, you'll live long enough to understand something. Time isn't unlimited. And the things that we do right now, the things that you can create, the things that you want to preserve for real, they have a funny way of meeting up with you later on. Welcome to Word Forward, y'all, where we bring structured clarity in this noisy world together. I'm your host, Damien J, and this is episode 23. And today I want to talk to y'all for a minute. I want to talk to y'all about the future, but not in the way that we normally speak on that. I'm not talking about the retirement parts or building something greater in your life. I want to talk about what happens when today becomes something that you might overlook. Eventually, it will be. Then the question grows inside of you like, what am I leaving behind? Let's talk about that. You see, when my mother said, everybody can't be broken, I always heard it as somebody has to be the stronger one. Somebody has to be able to hold things together when the other person can't. But nowadays, I hear something else inside of that. I hear preparation. Most of them things that help you survive those tough times, they weren't built during those hard moments. Money always existed before the bills got here. Relationships, they existed before people realized that they needed somebody. And just like your skills, they have to exist before your opportunities show up. The earlier version of you has to leave something behind for the version of you that's going to need it later on. Once I started thinking about things like that, I realized something else. Sometimes you're preparing something for the version of yourself that hasn't started missing it yet. Things like pictures, videos, voice recordings. Those are stories. They're little pieces of your life. Stuff that really doesn't seem important today because today still feels regular. But that always changes. When you're young, the future, it feels fake for real. When you're 19 and 20, 40 sounds old. Saying 50 years old, that sounds ancient. Building something called legacy, that sounds like something that was only made for famous people. The word later, it becomes your best friend. I'll save it for later. I'll start it later. I'll document that later on. None of those sound crazy when you say it then. It's really reasonable to believe that you have more time because you'll say things to yourself like, I got the time. I'll get to it later. But here's the thing about later. It still shows up. One day you're 25, and in 10 years from there, it sounds like forever. But then you're 35, and then you realize 10 years can disappear from you real quick. And then once you blink again, you're 45. But you're not really old yet. You're still not finished yet. There's plenty of life in front of you. But you'll understand time differently then. You understand how fast it really moves. You get it now how some windows will not stay open forever. And when that future turns into yesterday, you get no notification saying, hey, this version of your life is almost over. Why don't you go and take some pictures or something? Yeah, life doesn't do that for us, unfortunately. There are things in life that are perennial. Money, careers, businesses, skills. You can lose all of those, and it could hurt, but you can rebuild them again and again. But then there's something else to consider. Some of those things you can't go back for once they lose your attention. Your parents at a certain age, your kids at a certain age, the conversations with those people that are no longer here to have them with you, random moments in your life that didn't feel important until years later. You can't hustle your way back to those moments by making more money so you can buy back the time that you lost. Look, my daughter, she's almost 11 years old. And sometimes I'll pull up on these old pictures or an old video from when she was little, but there's that sad realization. That version of her doesn't exist anymore. Yeah, she's still my daughter, but the little girl in those videos, she's more grown up now. Time moved on. Things do hit harder when you're a parent. You see that when those moments are actually happening, but you usually don't know that they're really important until later on. Look, we all can hate in unison how life for an adult turns out for us. We come home tired. We just try to make sure that the dinner's available. Everybody's usually doing their own thing in the house. Life is just, right? 5 years can look just like that until you see it. But a few random pics in those moments can become priceless later. You know, that's really wild to me. Life doesn't have to feel historic to become important to us later on. Sometimes the only reason that you could revisit those moments at all is because one smart person decided to pull out their camera in the moment, and then they snapshot life for 30 seconds. Most times the greatest moments only happen one time until you capture it. That's why I look at my phone a lot different these days. We literally all carry around this cool super tool every single day. A camera, a video recorder, a voice recorder even. Dozens of photos right there in our pockets for real. Before I even started recording this episode, I was looking through my own phone and I realized how much random stuff is actually in there. Screenshots of memes I don't even remember taking. And then mixed in with all of that, there'll be videos of my kids when they were having fun or something from years ago. A little piece of my life that I forgot that I captured. Those are the things that really mean the most to me right now. And that's when the thought actually hit me. The phone could be full and still feel empty to most people. I don't mean to say this so you can think you need to stop scrolling. I have silly stuff saved in my phone too. That's not the point that I'm trying to make. The point is that we already own the tool that can preserve our lives. You see, that's the part of why this podcast means something different to me right now. I'm not recording these episodes because I feel like I made it to a different level than everyone else. Trust me, I know I don't have all the answers. I don't try to act like I do. I'm still figuring out life with y'all. I'm not trying to perform motivation or put it on a display. I'm only documenting my life in real time in these pages that I turn right in front of y'all. How I'm thinking these days that I'm an adult, what I believe in right now. Y'all see whatever I'm struggling with, and then whatever I learned from those things that I struggled with. It's really important that you can create a record because years from now, anyone could come back to these episodes and hear what type of man I was and what type of time I was on. Not just see what I accomplished in my life. You'll know who I was as a person. And one day my kids, they might come back to these recordings too. They'll really get to hear their father talking to them. Not just somebody telling them about me. It'll be me telling them my story. They'll get to hear my thoughts from me. All the things that actually mattered to me. All the things that I believed in. They'll get to see why I kept buying the dips in life when I was having those rough weeks. I would pay anything to have collected the real memories from the people that I had lost. Not just the pictures, though, or somebody else's memory of them, because, you can't manufacture lost memories once they're gone. So, yeah, that's why I want Word Forward to grow. I want millions of people to hear these conversations someday. Of course I do. But even if none of that happens, these episodes will still become proof of my legacy. To be honest with y'all, I think most times we make legacy seem like it's something way too big to achieve. We hear legacy and think a big bank account, a bunch of businesses that you own, your last name written across a bunch of things. Yeah, legacy can look like that sometimes. Then again, most times it's more personal than that. Like leaving behind a journal or a recipe that you can hand down, a podcast even, some books that you might have wrote, some proof that you existed past the failures that you had. Evidence that, yeah, somebody was here and that somebody mattered to somebody. Because eventually every family is going to have a story to tell. You could say, your grandfather used to do this, or your mother always said that, or your father, he loved going there. I started thinking, right, what if people didn't have to search for stories about you? What if they can actually hear you, see you in motion, or read what your thoughts sounded like, watch you evolve when they revisit your past? Things like that hit real different. So I'm going to make a challenge for everyone, real simple. I'm not saying this so you can go and start your own podcast. And I'm not saying this so you can turn around and just start making a bunch of content. I'm not even telling you to go and build an audience right now. Listen, before today ends, I just want you to capture something ordinary, not for social media. Don't even post it. Just keep it for your archives. Go and record your mother or your father or your grandparents' voice if you still can. Ask the elders in your family those questions that you never asked, but always wanted to. Capture your kids while they're still little and document all of those days if you can. Take pictures of the fun that you have inside your house. Something that seems like it might just happen forever. Those normal moments have a funny way of becoming priceless pieces of material later on. For real, your life doesn't have to be extraordinary before it's worth remembering for real. You know what I realized when I put this whole episode together? We're all probably living through a bunch of stuff right now that we don't even know we're going to miss yet. And that's the weird part for real. Nostalgia never gets a heads up. It never comes up to you and taps you on your shoulder like, hey, you need to pay attention to this right now. Nah. It waits about 6 or 7 years, and then it pops up in your camera roll. Seriously, that's exactly what happened to me. I'm looking at all these old pictures and videos, and I realize I'm looking at a chunk of receipts, proof that these moments actually happened for real. And I think that's the part that we should never overlook. And listen, I'm not saying this so you can start documenting every single moment of your life. Please don't. Some moments can really stay between you and God. I'm just saying, once in a while, catch a clip of your life while you're still living in it. One day, you might pay anything to revisit that moment one more time. Life is funny just like that. We spend all of this time trying to get somewhere, and then we spend half our life revisiting the places that we couldn't wait to leave. So yeah, don't just move fast towards what's next, that you leave no breadcrumbs behind for what was. Eventually, all them regular ass days that we take for granted become the good old days that we can't stop talking about. Alright, so before I get out of here now, I hope y'all understand your challenge. I really want you to capture today before tomorrow shows up. Something normal, something real. Don't post it. Keep it for yourself. Every single thing in life doesn't need an audience. A lot of memories are allowed to belong just to you. 5 years from now, you remember me telling you to do this. And you'll open your phone and see all those things that you saved and realize, damn, I'm glad I kept this. If somebody came to mind while you were listening, I want you to send this episode to them. Follow Word Forward on all platforms that you listen to your podcast. And jump into the comments this week and tell me something. What's one thing that you held on to that became more valuable as the time progressed? I want to hear about those for real, and I'm going to respond back. The inner circle is in the description so we can build more about this topic. This is Word Forward, y'all. I'll see you in the next one.